There we go. So this is Steins Gate Zero. Because this is a new game and I want to give people more not spoiler warnings, trigger warnings. Steins Gate is also a game that deals with some very mature concepts. In the previous game, well, first of all, this is a sequel. If you haven't seen Steins Gate 1, spoilers for that. Second of all, this is a game series which deals with some mature themes. In the first game, there were themes such as death, rape, murder, what's the repeatedly murdering someone, forcing yourself on people for personal gain, and some of that stuff against people who are minors. Lots of things that aren't exactly that are fairly mature subjects, and if that's not for you, and you want to duck out, please find somewhere else for you to be. But yes, if you are sticking around, yes, I'm going to update the stream title. But yes, thank you, Mim. Let's do that right now. Okay, there we go. That is updated. Thank you for that, Mim. So let's get into this. So, for people who played or watched the first Steins Gate, some things note. Steins Gate is a game that involves time travel and has multiple endings. So, of course, this game can only follow one of those endings. If you do not want to hear what that is, because that is a spoiler, probably you want to find somewhere else to to be. But if you remember near the very end, I wish this game would stop cutting to that. If you remember near the end, we had gotten to the point where we had gone back to try and stop Christina from dying. Yes, spoilers for the previous game. If that was not clear, I feel like I said that, but yes, spoilers for previous game. We had gone back in time. We had tried to stop Christina from dying in the Alpha World line, and we had not been successful the first time. And then we got a message from ourselves in the future. This game follows that Hoenn Kyouma who sent that message to us, which is the world line in which we chose the beta world line. So Christina is dead, Mayuri is alive. So that's the world line we're on, and that's the world line this game follows. What's the sound level? Okay, it looks okay. Yeah, I think that's a good enough introduction. I am following a guide to get all the endings. From what I have read, I tried to keep spoilers out of it. Yes, Christina is dead in this world line. So this is the world line where we chose the beta world line. So Mayuri is alive, Christina is dead. So just to start off, there's already death. But yes, I'm following an endings guide from what I have read online. I tried to keep... I've seen the anime for this, so it's not like there's much spoilers for me, but I wanted to try and keep it as fresh as possible. Excuse me. The route I'm running it is the most efficient route to see all the endings. Some people argue from a thematic point of view, it kind of defeats the purpose of one of the endings. If that is something that interests you and you don't mind the spoilers, look into that yourself. I will not go into it, because don't want to spoil that for anyone, nor myself. So yeah, with that, we are going to get started. Just going to give us a summary of all that. Okay. Flashback. Here's about the level of blood and gore that will be in this game. If that's not something you're comfortable with, that's about the level it'll be at. And sorry, I'd said we were in the beta world line. That's incorrect. We're in the alpha world line because Christina is dead and Mayuri's alive. That was, I had it reversed. The hatch opened. Bright light flooded my eyes. Where was I? My eyes narrowed. So, the Alpha world line is the world line we originally start in, where we see Christina die. He then sends a message saying that that someone died at the thing. That sent us into the beta world line, because that message exists and all that happens. And then we shift to the beta world line. And in the beta world line, which is where I would say 90% of Steins Gate takes place, is where Christina exists, and Mayuri is the one who keeps dying. And most of that game is us in the beta world line, trying to make it back to the alpha, and then we get to the end and we're like, oh crap, that means Christina has to die. You're already confused. This is a good game. I could barely make out the summer's twilight sky. I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to disappear. But someone grabbed my arm and dragged me out. It's called the power of time travel, Daru. I didn't have the energy to respond to my own nickname. Yes, that's maybe a better way to put it, is what Mim said. This is the timeline where we went back in time, tried to save Christina, failed, but this time there's no us from the future to send us that video message saying we had to fail the first time, because that's us who sends the message. So it's the story of how we get from this point to sending that message. No. Dang it. I fell to the ground and wrapped my arms around myself. Mayuri ran to me and looked down, her face worried. But her kindness felt like nothing but a nuisance. Don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. Daru ran to the door that led back inside the building. You can't see Daru, there is only Popeye. Stop it. Just get away from me. Leave me alone. I couldn't save her. In fact, I killed her myself. Right here, 3 weeks ago. I killed her. I'm a murderer.
何をやっても無駄だ。全部決まってしまっていることなんだよ。同じだ。 真入れの時と同じなんだ。どれだけもがいたって結果は同じになる。
No matter how many times I try, we'll all converge back to the same result. The process doesn't matter. Whether you time travel or time leap, you can't go back and change the results of the past. I thought I understood that cruel truth, but now I was forced to realize it again, in the worst possible way.
無駄だよ。無駄なんだ。何もかも無駄なんだよ。俺はやっぱりクリスを助けられないんだ。分かってた。分かってたんだ。こうなるって予想してたんだ。もう疲れた。ずっと休んでないんだ。だからもういいよ。
オカリン、一体何が。
俺が殺した。殺してしまった。バカみたいだ。全部。
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was gonna cut into like the opening cutscene or something. I'm like, wait, you're still going?
マキセ・クリスをさ、刺し殺しちゃったんだ。殺した？嘘、そんな。でも安心して、まだもう一回分タイムトラベルはできる。
ほっといてくれ。俺のことなんか何度やったって結果は同じだ。
何言ってんの？諦めるつもり？オカリンおじさんの肩には何十億っていう人の命がかかってるんだよ。たった一回の失敗が何だって言うんだ。
クリスはどうやったって助けられない。
Oh boy, we got tips about world
世界線の
lines.
収束には逆らえない。
Okay, what's the button for it? Oh, there's the quick jump. World line. This term refers to an infinite number of possible worlds. However, these worlds do not exist in parallel. Only one exists at a given time. Everything that occurs along a world line, from past to the future, has been predetermined. Thus, no matter how much you change the past along a single world line, the result will converge to the same outcome. That's the reality of this world. I learned that a long time ago.
こうなったらビンタしてでも気合い入れ直して。ダメだよ、無理強いするのは良くないよ。こんなボロボロになってるオカリン見てられないもん。でもさ、このままじゃ未来を変えられない。どうして未来のことをオカリン一人に押し付けるの？そんなの重すぎるよ。オカリンおじさんには世界の観測者としての能力があるからだよ。オカリンが望んだわけじゃないのに。それにもう一度やったってまたオカリンが傷つくだけだって思うな。未来のことを人一人で変えようなんてきっと無理なんだよ。だからそのためのシュタインズゲートで、気持ちはわかるよ。でもさ、私も未来をかけてここまで来てるんだよね。どっちにしろ2036年には戻れないんだ。そう簡単に諦めるつもりはないから。オカリンおじさん、一つだけ忠告しとく。 このタイムマシンに残されてる燃料は有限なの。さっきは往復2回分しか残ってないって言ったけど、実はまだそれなりに余裕はある。それでも移動できる時間はおよそ344日分。片道のタイムトラベルだとしても今から1年と経たないうちに7月28日には届かなくなる。覚えといて。その日になったらさ、私はたとえ一人でも飛ぶよ。
Someone was saying something to me. I couldn't understand the words. I didn't want to listen to anything. I just wanted to sleep. That's a mood. Just let this all end. Just let me go.
おかり？おかり？ねえ、おかり？もう頑張らなくてもいいからね。泣いてもいいんだよ。おかり？マユシーはそばにいるからね。おかり？
I don't know if Mayuri's words were the reason why, but the tears started to flow. I decided to forget everything. Ever since that day, I stopped going to the Future Gadget Lab. A lab in name only. It's actually a group of students who make strange inventions. Its founder, us, described it as a place where he can further his ambitions to overthrow the ruling structure of the world. To get there, head down Center Street from Akihabara Station. Then when you get to Suehiro-cho intersection, take a left at Kuromaebashi Street. And head into the alleyway just in front of the next light, and you'll find an old multi-purpose building called Obiyama Building. It's on the second floor. This sound looks like a, gonna get an opening sequence? Or no, you're just cutting to a different date and time. UPX. The new symbol of Akihabara was located right in front of the station. Okay, so we jumped, I think, a couple months, because I think that was late August. And we're now in November. So I think we jumped ahead, remember, about 3 months in time. In the hall on the 4th floor, preparations had been going on all morning for the ATF Akihabara Techno Forum convention. Universities and labs from both inside and outside the country would work together to put on special seminars and symposiums at irregular intervals, because screw consistency. My school, Tokyo Denkai University, is participating as part of its industry collaboration efforts. Students were required to attend these seminars and submit reports to their instructors. Founded as the Denkai School in 1907, in 1949 it became a college in Kanda, Tokyo. Denkai University trains engineers and scientists to promote the healthy development of scientific technology. It was founded around the principle of practical study above all else. Like time travel, very practical. Its educational and research model is technology is people. Because of the school's location, it was deeply involved in the development of Akihabara. Otherwise, they wouldn't get credit for their related classes. In addition, I was supposed to help one of the lecturers, Associate Professor Izaki. I just gotten a list from the reception desk at the shared lobby. I was waiting to check off the names of the students who were coming to the lectures. There was still some time before the seminar started, so the lobby was mostly empty. None of the students on the list were here yet. I was bored, but I couldn't do anything but wait. The old me never could have imagined doing anything like this, but impressing Izaki was part of my new goal in life. Victor Chondria University. Yes, that was my new goal. Izaki did a lot of joint research projects with them, and knew a lot of people there. The best first step to getting there my brain could come up with was being his assistant. Also, this convention was holding another seminar by Victor Chandria University after the one held this summer. Of course, that interested me too. Summer. An image of her, as she was then, flashed through my mind. I was trying to get to Victor Chandria so that I could learn about the work that Krisu Makise had been doing. I wanted to try and do it myself. Of course, I wasn't a genius like Krisu. I knew there was no way I'd be able to do exactly what she did. If I could do even 10% of it. Honestly, I'm amazed that I've recovered so well. I thought that to myself and chuckled, just as a voice called to me from across the lobby. I looked up and saw a young girl approaching from the elevator hall. She was short and petite. Everything about her was small. I could kind of make out a few of the curves that don't appear until after puberty. At least she wasn't in elementary school, but maybe middle school? For someone with such a cute face, she clearly didn't care about her appearance. Her hair wasn't styled and it flowed down her back. Even I could tell her clothes weren't very fashionable.
スタッフルームってどこかしら？
ここは ATF のセミナー会場だけど。
That hair is not small. This is true. Clearly not a place where a middle school girl belonged. She'd probably just come to the wrong place.
そんなの分かっているわ。何度同じ話を繰り返せば気が済むんだ。
いや、今初めて行ったんだけど。
私にとってはあなたで4回目よ。この場所に来てからね。
Irritated, she pulled a card out of her jacket. It's one of the IDs given out to invited guests. Her name and the name of her workplace were written on the front.
Huh?
Victor Chandra University, USA, Brain Science Institute.
ビクトル・コンドリア大学脳科学研究所
Brain science, the field of study that researches animal brains, also called neuroscience, and investigates the brain from a number of perspectives, including biology, genetics, medicine, psychology, and electrical engineering. I looked at the card, and then at her, then back at the card, and I looked at her again. I finally realized.
あ、そういうことか。そのカード、どこに落ちてたんだ？拾ってくれたん。
その話も4回目よ。
He sighed and showed me another card. This one was a photo ID from Victor Chandria University. It was the same ID I'd seen Krisu holding before on another world line. The photo on the card, yeah, that was definitely her.
ヒアジョウマホって読むの。私の名前、ヒアジョウマホ。漢字でもローマ字でも誰も読めた試しがないから、先に言っとくわ。
ビクトル・コンドリア大学の中学生
寝ぼけるなら夜にして。大学に中学生がいるわけないでしょ。
それもそうだな。じゃあ飛び級か。
Unlike in Japan, it wasn't uncommon for Americans to skip grades. Krisu had made it to university at age 17. Internet? The internet do something? Internet has looked fine for the past... what's that, 2 minutes? I'll take it from Samus's comment that it did not lag for him, though. Could be that an overseas connection. But still, a girl this young working in a university lab?
一つ確認していいかしら。 あなた今少なからず衝撃を受けてるわよね。こんな小さい子が信じられないかしら。それともこの年齢ですごいの方。
あ
She got me.
ここをよく見なさい。
The girl, Maho Yajo, pointed to the part of the ID with her slender fingers. She was born in 1983, and it was 2010, so...
21歳
つまり立派な成人女性よ。中学生じゃないのよ。もちろん小学生でも幼稚園児でも。
Then she puffed out her chest. There wasn't much to see, but I could imagine her saying, "They look bigger when I'm not wearing clothes. They're huge."
何かしらその顔は。
あいや悪かった謝る
Couldn't believe it. She was older than me. Anime logic. If Dar was here, he'd be dancing around screaming, "Legal lolly for the win." Daru sucks enough when he's here. Can we not say what he would say if he was here? For the win. Net slang used to abbreviate excitement about a positive event or experience. Abbreviated FTW. Legal lolly refers to a character in anime or manga who appears to be no older than an elementary schooler, but is in fact over the legal age of 20.
まあいいわ。
Samus needs a
世界中どこへ行
whisper?
っても同じ目に遭ってるから。
I mean, does this help?
うんそうだろうな
You're welcome, Samus is.
何か言った？
あいや別に
Still, the Brain Science Institute? That's where Krisu worked. Which means this kid, no, this person, might know a lot about Krisu. I held back the impulse to start badgering her with questions. I looked at the pamphlet with the seminar schedules. Victor Chandria Lecture was the last one for the day, and was clearly intended to be the biggest. Was this Maho Hyajo girl going to give a lecture? Just like Krisu had done at the summer convention. No wait, that's wrong. That never happened. Krisu Makize never gave any lectures over the summer. That happened in the Alpha World line. The world line I inhabit now, before the summer convention, she'd already...
君が今日登壇を
いいえ、私は助手として来たの。あと通訳も兼ねてね。
I looked at the pamphlet again and saw that the lecturer was a man named Alexis Leskinen. Alexis Leskinen. Professor at Victor Chandria University and the chief researcher of the Brain Science Institute.
テーマは人工知
And
能
yes, it does. Her name literally has the word for magic in it. Mim is correct.
面白そうだな
時間があったらぜひ聞いてみてほしいわね。
そうするよあスタッフルームだったよな
I led Maho over to the elevator hall and showed her where the staff room
ありがとう。
was. I had no reason to hang around her any further. I said goodbye, just about to turn around. Just then, the elevator opened. A woman emerged. The instant I saw her face, every hair on my body stood on end. Moaka Kiryu? It's all I could do to keep myself from screaming. Calm down. This is the beta world line. Wait, can I... Do I have my cell phone? No. Oh, there's my cell phone. I've upgraded my cell phone, guys. Check this out. Oh yeah, let's change our wallpaper. This is clearly important. Which type of frog do you want? Well, we got the silver ball, we got green frog, we got fat yellow frogs, we got Angry red frog. We got cat frog. And all of its cat frog buddies. Oh, I'm blocking the... Okay. There we go. Let's go that... So this was our default... Here, let me... I would cover the date. That's probably the least important thing my face can cover. No, you cannot quote Mim. Okay, so we got... This is the default. We got the Oopa, Metal Oopa. We got Green Frog. We got Fat Yellow Frogs. Angry Red Frog. Cat Frog, and all of his Cat Frog friends. Cow Frog. And that's it. I kind of like the Fat Frogs. I have a feeling Samus is going to vote for the cats. Yeah. Aha. We got some ringtones. Got beginning of fight. Got village. Jeez, that sounds like an Undertale song. Easygoingness. These are too lighthearted for this kind of game, guys. That's like dungeon crawling. That's alright. This is the one we had last time. And then this is the classic. And Samus liked the first one. Which kind of sounds like you're fighting in an old school RPG, which makes sense based on the name. Over the Sky is a jam. I'm kind of leaning towards one of the bottom three. So Over the Sky. We used Reunion last time, maybe we want to switch it up. That's the class. We'll go with Over the Sky for now. You will accept Over the Sky. Done and done. What have we got? Text messaging system, but I have no friends apparently. Oh, can I just call people? No. I cannot call people. Okay, we got some requests for the Oopas. There we go. I literally tried calling everyone on that list, so I can guarantee you we cannot call anyone. Or Angry Frog. Frug. This is the Beta World line. Mayuri is alive. Moeka's not going to kill her. Our eyes met. The eyes on the other side of her glasses were as dead as ever. It was impossible to tell what she was thinking. I frantically averted my gaze before she realized something was wrong. She tilted her head for a second, but quickly lost interest in me and turns toward Maho. Wow, they actually have a back version of them? That's interesting.
雑誌社の方でしたよね。お約束通り主催を。
Even in this world line, Moeka still only spoke in faint whispers.
レスキネン教授はまだなんです。少しお待たせしてしまいますけど。はい。それまで私でよければシステムの概要でもお願いします。
The two of them disappeared into the staff room. I watched them leave. I took a deep breath. I tried to calm down, but it wasn't working.
桐生萌か。もしかしてまたお前なのか。
Okay, and I figured out the thing for quick saving. Oh, here's our menu. That's kind of cool. This game definitely had a different aesthetic. It was a terrible feeling, like a cold finger tracing the wounds in my heart. That night, when the terrorist threat shut down all the trains in Akihabara. That awful night, I just knew something was going to happen.
ここでもまたお前が
Or was I just imagining things? Was she just a magazine reporter now instead of a CERN rounder? Rounder. Well, let's start with CERN, actually. CERN, the European Laboratory for Nuclear Research, CERN. However, it is not an acronym for this group. It comes from the French. Société Européenne de Recherche Nucléaire. European Society for Nuclear Research. Its predecessor group. The lab consists of the world's largest particle accelerator on the outskirts of Geneva, Switzerland. It crosses the border between France and Switzerland. There's a bank, library, post office, and living quarters located on the grounds. Research teams from all over the world, but particularly the 19 countries of Europe, gather here to perform experiments in elementary particle physics. Several thousand people work at CERN. Now with that out of the way, Rounders are an unofficial group that work for CERN. In theory, it's an independent group that does technology research. Rounders are deployed all around the world. Their exact numbers are unknown. Their real objective is to recover IBM 5100s, which is the machine that we spent probably half of last game trying to track down. The only machines capable of hacking CERN's hidden database, as well as crushing any attempts at time machine research around the world and taking the scientists back to work for CERN. They are in essence mercenaries who are capable of using force if necessary. Some of the members on the bottom rung do their work without ever meeting another rounder face to face. No, even if Moeka was a rounder, we had nothing to do with CERN anymore. CERN wouldn't be watching us. Use the force. I took another deep breath, grabbed some of the anxiety meds in my pocket, swallowed them down with some mineral water I'd bought ahead of time. Dang it, Mim. It would take 15 minutes for them to kick in. Those 15 minutes were always pretty rough. I laughed at myself a little and sat down on one of the reception desk's chairs. The heck is... Oh, we got a text message? So it appears. It's my eerie. Doo-doo-doo, Okarin. Things going okay with the seminar? Okay, and this time I can tab left and right to select what we're going to say at the bottom. So I can say, yeah, no problem. There was a little accident, or I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think there was really an accident. I mean, like, I would say, yeah, no problem. Like, we haven't, like, really screwed up anything yet, so I'm just gonna say, yeah, no problem. Oh, and she responds immediately. Cool. I guess I should actually read this. I see, that's great. Can't wait to see what kind of seminar it'll be. Maishi wishes she could have seen it too. Maybe a little too hard for you to follow. She has her own emojis! She has got, like, stickers. Awesome. You're right. Okay, I don't want to get in your way. Bye. Oh, and it auto-closes when you get to the end of the thread. Awesome. Can we... Oh, and we can't call her. Okay. Cool, that's how texting works. The table was filled with leaflets, pamphlets, and other things for the attendees. Yeah, we are the Metal Upa. My eyes wandered to one of the pamphlets. Nakabachi theory and the genealogy of pseudoscience. This pamphlet was for Professor Izaki's seminar. Nakabachi theory. The paper he'd announced in Russia. That paper held the key to creating a real time machine. Yeah, so keep in mind that in this, where we currently are, Dr. Nakabachi successfully makes it to Russia with the paper, that Christina gave him about the time travel theory, which he's going to publish as himself, that starts the whole chain reaction of World War III and the time travel war. Are they literally going to I should just shut my mouth. On that day, July 28th, Nakabachi had stolen the paper from Krisu, his own daughter, and left with it. I knew that. Only Nakabachi and I knew that. I flipped through the pamphlet. It was a brief introduction to the many forms of pseudoscience and fake scientific discoveries that had emerged since the start of the 20th century. On its own, it did make for interesting reading. At the end of the pamphlet, Nakabachi's theory was introduced as nothing more than another entry in that long list of fakes. So Dr. Nakabachi's time machine theory had been completely ignored by the academic world. All the glory, fame, and power he'd wanted so badly that he was willing to get rid of his own daughter, he didn't get any of it. I'd heard rumors that after the announcement, he'd been imprisoned in a Russian lab. To make it even funnier, he thought he was getting VIP treatment. For a short time, there were essays and interviews in bogus academic journals. Even there, it was obvious it had all gone to his head. The ironic thing was that Nakabachi theory was completely correct and completely revolutionary. The Russian government was worried about it leaking, and SVR was doing everything it could to keep it under wraps. SVR, the Service of the External Reconnaissance of the Russian Federation. It's Russia's external intelligence agency. Its HQ is in Yasenovo in southern Moscow. After the Soviet Committee for State Security, the KGB, was disbanded, the new SVR was modeled after the KGB's first directorate. There are other intelligence agencies in Russia as well, such as the Main Intelligence Directorate, GRU, and the Federal Security Service, FSB. Each of them has their own territory and specialization. So, I think at this point, the scientific community is like, nah, no way, can't work, man. How would you even prove this unless you could build it? Meanwhile, Russia is trying to, I think, cover it up, because if it is true, they want it all for themselves. I think that's about the current, political and scientific state of the communities around this. And the Russian government also probably doesn't want other people to know that they locked him up in their science dungeon. But under the surface, there was a full-scale information war beginning over the paper. The time traveler from 2036, John Titor, had told me so, which meant it had to be true. John Titor. Is a science dungeon uwu? November 2000, a man appeared on an American message board claiming to be a time traveler from the year 2036. This became an internet phenomenon that inspired a storm of questions and debate. The man called himself John Titor and published partial pics of the manual for his time machine, as well as an explanation for how it operated. It also made it clear what would happen in the near future, how interfering with the timeline worked, the principles behind the multiverse and parallel worlds, as well as timelines and world lines. And then, 4 months after his appearance, he left a final message saying he'd completed his mission and would be returning to his world, then he vanished for good. Was World War III really going to happen? There was no point in thinking about it. Just a little more before the drugs kicked in. Close my eyes. Bye. Wake up in the science dungeon. Several hours later. The convention was going well. After Professor Izaki's seminar, most of the students from my university went home, but I killed some time and came back. I wanted to hear the Victor Chandria lecture. I headed to the hall with plenty of time to spare and saw Maho Iajo coming from the staff room. He was with a very tall foreigner. Was this that Alexis Leskinen? Didn't seem like an American name, but maybe he was an immigrant like Chrissu, or at least descended from one. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the looks on their faces were so serious that I couldn't help but listen. Since they were both speaking in English, I could barely make out any of it. I could tell from their voices that it wasn't a pleasant chat. Wait, did I just hear the word Ise? I hated the fact that I couldn't speak English. If I'd known this was going to happen, I would have gone to an English school. The two of them walked into the waiting room for lecturers, located right next to the UPX theater. I put together the few fragments I was able to understand. Fire at Chrissu's house. Miss McKee says alright. Robbery. The police called off the investigation. Why was the FBI there? Didn't make sense. FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, an American police organization attached to the Department of Justice that handles crimes that occur on American soil. Approximately 30,000 people work for the FBI. When crimes take place involving a wide area and multiple states, the FBI investigates under federal law. I think that's what they were saying. Chrissu's house. They mean where she lived in America? Her mother should still live in America. Is that where the fire was? And then words like robbery and the investigation was called off. I really wanted to know more. I stood there and worried until it was time for the lecture to begin. With nothing else to do, I went inside the theater. I could tell earlier by looking at the size of the crowds going inside, but it was a very high-energy crowd. The atmosphere was clearly different than Izaki's seminar, which was mostly students there for credit. The place was nearly full with a crowd of scientists and people who wanted to learn about cutting-edge technology. Victor Chandra researchers had published a slate of papers in Science recently. It had gotten a lot of media attention. Maybe that was why. Were there any empty seats? I found a single open seat at the edge. Wait, did it repeat that? Are we already doing the time travel? No? Okay. When I looked at who was sitting next to it, I moaned. You again? Oka Kiryu was there. She was speaking to no one, just typing endlessly into her phone. I'd once named her Shining Finger because of her incredible typing speed. She was as fast as ever. Who was she talking to? I didn't even want to imagine. I quickly turned away and looked for another seat. Dr. Leskinen reached the podium almost the exact instant I sat down. There was a huge wave of applause. When I saw the tiny little girl come up next to him, the applause faded into confused murmurs. Maho must have expected this. Her expression didn't change in the slightest as she stood next to the professor. In fact, when she took the microphone from the professor and looked around the theater, she looked like she belonged there.
Ladies and gentlemen.
First, Dr. Leskinen began to speak in English. When he made eye contact with Maho, she began to interpret.
Thank you for attending.
皆さん、本日は私のセミナーに集まってくださって感謝します。ビクトル・コンドリア大学脳科学研究所のアレクシス・レスキネンです。専門は脳信号処理システムおよび人工知能理論になります。そして私は助手の比谷城真帆です。同じく脳科学研究所で教授の指導に沿って研究をしています。よろしく。
The audience started murmuring again. That was the same way I responded when I met her. Well, that'll happen, yeah.
では早速ですが、私たちの最先端研究の一端をご紹介します。テーマは人工知能革命としましたが、これからデモンストレーションするシステムはおそらく皆さんの想像を超えたものではないかと思っています。
Artificial intelligence, often shortened to AI. There have been many different definitions for this word since its creation. For example, some use it to refer to control systems with self-directed learning capabilities, while others use it to refer to programs whose thought routines mirror a human's. Dr. Leskinen stood in front of the laptop that had been placed on the podium and started to type.
このパソコンですが、研究所のスーパーコンピューターの一つと接続されています。あ、 まだプロジェクターには映さないで。
One of the staffers was about to display the laptop screen on the front projector. Some kind of important program must have been booting up because Maho Hyajo stopped them.
すみません、まだ開発途中なんです。非常に美的センスのないプログラムが画面いっぱいに溢れ返っています。
It's probably filled with this porn, just saying.
こんなチープなプログラムを見られるのは恥ずかしい。裸を見られるよりもね。この中にエンジニアの方がいるなら理解していただけますよね。
Some of the audience got the professor's joke and laughed.
起動するまでの間、このシステム全体の概略を説明しましょう。
There was another projector in the center of the stage. A diagram appeared on its screen. Top of the diagram was a Japanese translation for the general audience. An analysis of neural pulse signals relating to memories stored in the temporal lobe. So we got a couple things. Nerve pulse, an electrical signal that travels through the human's nerve cells. It's used to quickly spread information between cells. Temporal cortex, part of the cerebrum located at the side of the brain. It controls memory, judgment, emotional restraint, hearing, and more. It's also used for accessing the hippocampus, which is on the edge of the cerebrum. I knew that title well. In fact, I was sure I could never forget it. It was the title of an essay written by a 17-year-old genius and published in Science. He had completely analyzed the nerve impulse patterns that govern human memory, and used that to digitize the memories themselves into data. She'd used that to invent the time leap machine right in front of my eyes. Though, none of that had actually happened anymore.
サイエンス誌に掲載されたので、ご存知の方もいるでしょう。これは私たちのチームにいた天才的な日本人研究者によって提唱され完成されたものです。人間の記憶は大脳皮質、とりわけ側頭葉に記録されます。いわゆるフラッシュメモリみたいなもの。
Cerebral cortex, the gray-colored external layer of the human brain. It is only a few millimeters thick, but consists of over 10 billion neurons and countless layers. A central core governing sensation, movement, and mental activity. Different parts handle different functions.
そのメモリに記憶を書き込んだり、読み出したりするの
Hope you
が
guys are all ready for learning a bunch of science terms, because that's what we're doing today. Hippocampal gyrus. The hippocampal gyrus is found on the outside edge of the hippocampus. It is the part of the brain that controls memories and spatial recognition. It's responsible for spatial processing, as well as the sensation of being familiar with a place or situation. It plays an important role in memory encoding and retrieval. Your brain can't handle this. I mean, for the most part, I don't think you really need any of the tips. They are just educational, and I do like reading them. I do like trying to learn from it. Although, admittedly, probably like 3/4 of the stuff I will forget by like next stream. But I do think they have pretty good definitions of things. You might try when it's not late. That is fair. Dr. Leskinen pointed to the diagrams of the brain and hippocampus on the screen.
脳はニューロンと呼ばれる細胞の間を電気信号が伝わっていくことで働いています。
Neuron, also referred to as nerve cells. Cells specialized for information processing. Electrical pulses flow between these cells to share various types of information, making them a form of transmission mechanism.
記憶というのも実はこういった電気信号の伝わりの一つなのです。その働きを制御しているのが海馬傍回と言ってもいいでしょう。つまり電気信号が海馬傍回を出入りすることで記憶は作られていくんですね。そこでマキセ・クリスは この論文を書いた日本人研究者です。
Excuse me? I mean, Ms. Makise, one of our
マキセ
research
研
assistants.
究員は考えました。
You see here, electrical signals, signal patterns. The
海馬
several
妨
topics.
害を通る電気信号が電気信号のパターンと大脳皮質の
Maho started to have trouble with her interpreting. She was getting confused. No matter how good you were with languages, interpreting for a long period of time had to be difficult. Which is why you, can become an official translator or interpreter, because it is a difficult thing. I'd once read an article on the internet that said even a professional can't do it for more than 20 minutes. International conferences and live broadcasts from overseas were actually handled by a team of people switching off. You're waiting for me to become an official translator? What am I translating? Or maybe, was she having trouble because Chrissy's name came up? Dr. Leskinen saw she was having trouble and cut himself
す
off.
みません。
Ms. Makise, focus on the patterns.
マキセ研究員は
The parahippocampal
海
cortex.
馬妨害を出入りする電気信号のパターンに着目しました。
I mean, I can translate anything. I can just guarantee it will be done very poorly. You want me to translate shapes from one to the other? I can maybe give you a matrix. That can translate it. It can also rotate it and scale it for you.
By analyzing those patterns,
そのパ
she
タ
was
ーン
able
が
to gather data on
大
the
脳
memories
皮
and the
質の
several cortex
どの記憶と対応しているのか解析を行って完全なデータを得たのです。
This data allows her to take
これによ
the
って
analog memory signal
記憶という曖昧でアナログなものを電気信号のパターンの組み合わせというデジタルなものに変換する基礎理論が確立されたのです。
Ms. Makise published her
これ
research
が
in several journals.
サイエンス誌に掲載された彼女の論文です。
And now, based on her theory,
そして現
our
在
team has developed a
私
system
た
for
ちの
storing
チーム
human
は
memories as digital
その
data.
理論をもとに人間の記憶をデジタルデータとして取得するシステムを開発しています。
A wave of whispers swept across the
In
theater.
other words,
それはすなわち
this system allows human
人
memories
間の
to be
記憶
stored
を
and
コンピュ
accessed
ーター
on
に保存
computers.
しそれを活用するシステムということになります。
The whispers turned into a low roar. I see. But even after her death, Chrissy's research was being carried on. Of course, maybe it was natural that it would be. That was the basic theory for time leaping. I had proved myself, even if I could never prove it to anyone else, in the Alpha World line. My memories had been turned into data and stored on a computer. There was no doubt about that. And what Dr. Leskinen was talking about right now is the basic technology required for that process.
We are
現在
attempting to apply this
私
research
たちが
to
行
two
って
major
いるプ
projects.
ロジェクト
The
は
first is
主
medical
に
treatment.
2つです。1つは医療分野への応用です。
Slide on the projector
For this
changed.
application, we've
こ
been
ちらは
collaborating with the
精神生理学研究所と共同で行っているプロジェクトです
By passing data from a computer
コ
to
ン
the
ピューターに保
parahippocampal
存した
cortex,
記憶デ
we
ータ
can
を
rewrite memories
海馬
from
妨
the
害
original
を
brain.
通して再び元の脳に書き戻すというもので
Incredible!
Someone who looked like a grad student in the front row shouted. Dr. Leskinen didn't seem particularly put off by the interruption. Maho continued her interpretation.
You don't believe it? I know how you feel.
信じがた
I'd be
い
thinking
で
the
す
same
か
thing if I were you.
その気持ちは理解できます私も皆さんの立場であればそう言ったでしょう
But let me just ask you,
しかし
can you
こ
imagine
の
the
研究に
incredible
私たちは
applications
手
of
応
this
えを感じて
technology?
いますこれが実用化できればどんなに素晴らしいことでしょう
We could treat memory loss
例えば
independently or
老化による記憶障害
that currently have
あと
no
はアルツハイマーなどそうしたものへの対処療法が期待できます
Symptomatic therapy. Treatment intended not to cure the cause of disease, but to alleviate its symptoms and relieve pain. Painkillers and fever reducers are examples of symptomatic therapy.
Anyone's memories could be
患者の記憶をデータとして自動的にバックアップしていくのです
Even if a memory is
記
lost,
憶が失われたとしても
every time it's possible to
その都度
access a
PC に
PC
アクセスし
and reinstall data in
脳
the
内に
brain.
データを再インストールすることが可能です。
We could halt the progress of
そ
seniority
れによっ
and
て
dementia.
忘
That's the
却
sort
の
of
進
thing
行
we
を食い
believe
止め
this
られる
research
のではない
can
か
accomplish.
私たちはそう考えています。
Eventually, it would be
最
possible
終
to
的には
directly and continuously
海馬妨害
access
から
data stored on
PC 内の
computer
記憶
through
データ
the
に常時
prohibited
アクセス
channels.
できるようになるでしょう。
So if the brain were to lose
そうすれば
functionality,
脳
say
機能が
full brain
失われた
damage
状
or
態、
atrophy,
例えば脳が激しく損傷したり萎縮してしまった場合などですが、
the system would essentially
そのような状態でも
whatever part of the
変わら
brain
ず
was
脳
failing.
機能を維持できます。
Think of it like an
あた
external
か
hard
も
drive.
外部ストレージと同じように。
External storage, a data storage unit that can be detached from a computer or cell phone or other electronic device. Some examples include hard drives and flash memory. A strange feeling gripped the hall. Part of it was shock, and the feeling that they were witnessing the announcement of an incredible technology. Part of it was skepticism that a system like this could ever actually work. Part of it was revulsion at the idea of playing around with the human brain like that. An excitement born of all these things passed from one member of the crowd to another. Dr. Leskinen raised his hand to encourage questioners.
I'm seeing some of you have questions.
どうやら2つ目のプロジェクトをお話しする前に質問を受け付けないといけないようですね。
I'll answer as many as I can. Go
で
ahead.
きる範囲でお答えします。どうぞ。
Many hands were raised. I could tell there was a wide age range of people interested. Both young and old were raising their hands. Dr. Leskinen pointed to a questioner. This was the first question. Samus has a question too. Sampling would be required when digitizing analog memories. Does that mean any information would be lost? Sampling, the act of taking data at regular intervals. The professor nodded as he listened to the question in Japanese, and then began to respond in English when the speaker finished. Maybe he was able to understand Japanese, if not speak it.
Let me let
その質問を言い換えると、
You're talking about attempting to
オーケストラの生演奏を WAV のデータに保存する際、生演奏のすべてを完璧に記録することはできないと。
That's certainly a concern.
確かにその懸念はあります。現在の研究で最も困難な問題の一つです。脳内のネットワークが神経伝達物質のオンオフだけで、つまり二進数的にデータのやり取りをしているのであれば簡単な問題でした。それはデジタルデータと同じことだからです。しかし実際には伝達物質や電気信号は脳内でアナログ的に変化することが分かっています。この問題に関しては今のところより高いサンプリングレートでデータをサンプルする方法しか手段を持っていません。音楽の話で言えば 44.1kHz よりも 48kHz、 48kHz よりも 96kHz でサンプリングするといった具合です。それによってデジタルでありながらアナログデータに近い情報を得ようとしています。
Little by little, the mood in the room was turning to disappointment. People were beginning to wonder if this was just a pretty theory that wouldn't work in reality. More questions came. All of the questioners were skeptical of the professor's theory. Many of them seemed to be outright challenging him. I started to get upset. This was Dr. Leskinen's research, but it was also Krisu's. You can't tell if he's speaking gibberish or English. So, in the few seconds before Maho starts translating, he's definitely speaking English. It's definitely not a native English speaker speaking English, which might have some grammatical errors if that's what they're trying to portray in it. We can try and listen to him and see if we can tell. I knew better than anyone that it worked, and the sight of so many people refusing to give it a chance infuriated me. Were these people really scientists? I tried to keep myself under control and looked back towards the podium. Was she mad? She certainly looked disappointed. Dr. Leskinen was very polite with the rude questioners, acknowledging the problems with the theory. She was very different. Her anger was starting to seep into her interpreting, too. I felt a kind of kinship with her. The question and answer session continued.
そもそもこれは医学的に無謀でしょう。デジタルデータを脳に書き戻すなんて絶対に不可能だ。正気の沙汰ではない。サイエンス誌に掲載されたあの論文も読みましたが、にわかには信じられない。ましてや、筆頭著者が若干17歳の女性だったとあっては。
That was the one thing I couldn't
あなた
ignore.
ね、
Objection! Also, this is probably the first time we've actually seen Rintaro. He's got a new set of clothing, where he's going through his all-black phase. And yes, he's now Steins' attorney.
あ
Mao looks very confused at this matter. The two people on the stage and the entire audience all turned toward me at once.
やってみもしないで何がわかるって言うんだ。最初は無理だと思われてた技術なんてこの世にいくらでもあるじゃないか。でもそれを克服した研究者がいたからこそ今があるんだろう。ただ批判するだけじゃ何も生まれない。
The whole theater went silent, but I didn't regret standing up.
あなた
On the stage, Maho Yajo was staring at me in shock. And as for Dr. Leskinen, he'd suddenly appeared right in front of me. I saw a flash of white teeth as our eyes met.
Autumn is very something.
There you go, Samus's. He started to applaud. Why was he applauding? That just makes things embarrassing. Yeah, I knew he had voice lines, so I knew he definitely spoke English. What I didn't know is for the purposes of this, if they actually had him, like, start speaking English and then just, like, become a murmur so that Maho's voice became the thing you concentrated on. And I haven't really heard him talk with her translating over to try and figure that out again.
素晴らしい。彼はなかなか大したやつだ。ですって。
Maho translated the professor's words for me to hear.
Nonetheless, a scientist must always remain composed.
科学者たるもの常に冷静でなければいけな
That
い。
that one was a very short sentence and was entirely in English.
The only time when it is
大声
possible
で
to
怒鳴って
shout
いい
is
のは
when your
実験
experiment
が
is a
成功し
success
た
and you
時
say,
の。
Yeah, it sounds like it's entirely in English.
We did it,
We did it.
and that should be enough.
それだけで十分。だそうですよ。
すみません。
I lowered my head and sat down. I thought I was calm, but I guess I let my emotions get away from me. I hadn't grown up at all in the past 6 months. If Krista was here, she'd make fun of me again. I could feel the rest of the audience staring at me coldly. It hurt. If I could have left, I would have wanted to, but I was too interested in hearing the rest of Dr. Leskinen's talk to move.
Anyway, moving on.
それでは皆さん、そろそろ次に。
Oh, first, a round of
で
applause,
も
please, for
そ
our
の
great
前
friend.
に勇敢な彼に拍手をお願いします。
Oh no, please, no.
Men like him are what
彼
drive
のような
scientific
挑戦
progress
者こ
and
そが
enact the
科学を
core
進歩させ
remarkable race.
あっと驚くような理論を作り上げるのです。
He may even become the third
彼なら
Einstein.
きっと第3のアインシュタインになれるかもしれませんね。
Wait, who was the second Einstein? Albert Einstein, 1879 to 1955, a German Jew known as the father of modern physics, developed many important theories including the theory of general relativity, and the theory of special relativity, winner of the 1921 Nobel Prize in Physics.
The second Einstein, of course,
ちなみ
the man
に
is slightly
第
costly
2のアイン
assistant
シュ
here.
タインはここにいるちょっと小うるさい私の助手。
Oh no, she's getting the compliments.
変なこと言うのはやめてください、50。
The audience chuckled. Sheesh.
さて、ここで私はしばらく通訳をお休みさせていただきます。これから私よりも優秀な通訳が登場します。
I don't think I have compliments set up. You can do the command list and see what I have. I don't think I have compliment.
これが私たちのチームが今最も力を入れている2つ目のプロジェクト。アマデウスシステムです。
Compliment. When she finished speaking, Maho walked to the back of the stage. At Dr. Leskinen's signal, the PC screen was displayed on the projector. And then, I heard a voice.
皆さん、初めてお目にかかります。
Murmuring got louder than before. But it felt more uncertain than surprised. On the screen, I could see a detailed 3D model of Maho, the girl who'd just been interpreting.
ちなみにこれは映画などで有名なドリンクワークススタジオに作成してもらったものです。
Drinkworks Studio? Drinkworks, an American CG movie production company. Famous for movies like Shirk. Maho Hyajo chimed in from the back of the stage.
声については私のボイスサンプルをデータベースにして日本の山名が作ってくれました。
And Yamana, fictional instrument maker that was founded in the 19th century. In the 2000s, they began to develop and sell artificial voice software and DTM desktop music software for PCs. The road to El Dorito. Amazing. This was CG. Sure looked real to me. It's like we're in some kind of animated game to begin with. The professor said something into the laptop's microphone. We can't say Dorito. Oh, I've said it again. Oh no, I've said it. Ah! And then the 3D model of Maho Hyajo on the screen opened its mouth.
私はヒヤジョウマホです。正確に言うなら78時間22分前のヒヤジョウマホから派生した存在ということになります。
Listen carefully, you might be able to hear something slightly off. It sounded far more human than any artificial voice had ever heard.
先ほどから皆さんの質問を聞かせていただいていました。教授はどうして私を早く紹介しないのかと、とてももどかしく思っていましたよ。以前から感じていましたが、どうも教授は人が悪いようですね。まったくだわ。
The Maho Hyajo on the screen spoke with a slightly irritated expression. Maho Hyajo by the wall nodded in agreement. Dr. Leskinen simply smiled. What was going on here? But part of this was their biggest project. The rest of the audience didn't seem to have any more of a clue than I
皆
did.
さんの多くは疑問に思っています。人間の記憶をデータとして取り出したり、それを保存したり、さらにはそのデータを活用したり、そんなことが本当に可能なのかと。それでは私は一体何でしょうか。私は78時間23分前のヒヤジョウマホの脳内から取り出された記憶を持ち、そのデータをベースにして動いているのです。
What did she just say? The professor said something else in rapid English and asked the Maho on the screen to translate it. But she, if she was the right word, hesitated and went silent. I looked at the real Maho, and she was responding exactly the same way.
今のは教授、今の発言はセクシャルハラスメントとして大学に訴えてもいいでしょうか。
Dr. Leskinen laughed cheerfully and responded to her. The conversation was in quick English, and over half the audience couldn't understand it. The real Maho sighed and took back the microphone.
教授はですね、私に対して、いえ、私の記憶で動作しているこのアマデウスに対して質問に答えてごらんと言いました。いつ頃までパパとお風呂に入っていたかとか、初恋はいつだったかとか、何でも答えられるだろうと。
They both turned.
恥ずかしいからやめてくれないかしら。私はそういう質問には一切答えないわよ。
The professor said something else, and the Maho on the screen groaned and turned away. His face looks so weird. He looks like the creepy mask salesman from Zelda. What was this? It was so natural I couldn't tell at first, but this was something unbelievable, wasn't it? It felt very different than a typical AI, I could tell that much. It wasn't answering the questions it was given. And because they were embarrassing, was it programmed to respond like that to certain questions for the purposes of this demonstration? It was possible that's all it was, but that conversation wasn't programmed in advance. The rest of the crowd seemed to reach the same conclusion I did. The whispers started to turn into surprised murmur. A copy of Maho was complaining to the original. It felt like I was watching a pair of twin sisters talking.
いたずらな子供ではなく、レスキネン教授が面白がってなかなか説明してくれないので、代わりに私がお話しします。
Maho walked back to the
皆
professor.
さん、もうお分かりかと思いますが、アマデウスは自分が話していいこととそうでないこと、あるいは話したいことと話したくないことを自ら判断して喋っています。私たちはアマデウスにそういったプログラムを一切施していません。
I knew
彼
it.
女は与えられた私の記憶からそれを独自に判断し、自律的にそういう行動をとっているのです。
Maho on screen suddenly took over for her.
そしてこれは先ほどの医療分野への応用とは方向性が真逆になってしまい、研究所内でもずっと議論が交わされていることですが、私は不必要な情報をいつの間にか忘れてしまうというか、記憶の引き出しから出してこられなくなるのです。皆さんと同じようにです。例えば1週間前に着ていたパジャマの色、確かにそれを知っていたはずなのに今は思い出せません。そのような情報は生存していく上で必要がないからです。これも皆さんと同じです。このようにアマデウスは記憶のインプットやアウトプットが人間のそれと非常に近いのです。これは私たちも驚くべき結果として研究を重ねている最中で、まだ詳しくは解明されていません。
As Maho finished up, Dr. Leskinen took the microphone back. He resumed interpreting as he continued the lecture.
However, what really surprised us
さらに
was that Amadeus
私たちを驚かせたのは、アマデウスが意図して嘘をつくということ。
I mean, it sounds like they don't want it to be that way, Samus is.
何らかのトラブルやミスではなく、わざとそうするのです。嘘は人間が他人とコミュニケーションを取る上での一つの手法です。アマデウスもインプットされた記憶を自律的に検討し、必要であれば自分や他人のために平気で嘘をつきます。教授、 誤解を招くような言い方はやめてください。嘘をつくのに平気なことなんてありません。私だって両親が咎めます。
I'm so sorry, and
Dr. Leskinen cut off. He seemed to be hesitating. Maho didn't seem especially surprised by this. Maybe she knew the reason. But the moment passed and the professor continued. Maho translated his words like there was nothing shocking about them at all.
this has led us to some
このような
interesting
検
conclusions.
証を続けていくことで最終的に私たちは
For one, we believe it's possible
ア
for
マデウス
Amadeus
に
to eventually
人
possess
間
a
と
mind
同様の
functioning
魂を
identical
宿すことができるのではないか。
Maybe possible to make VTubers out of this. Oh, and give them a soul. I was stunned. A soul? Would one of the leading brain scientists in the world really be using a word with such a vague definition?
In other words, true
これこそ
artificial intelligence.
本当の意味での人工知能ということになります。
The whole hall got very quiet. It was sheer chaos for a while after that, as everyone tried to debate their own personal theories with Dr. Leskinen at once. True AI VTubers? Oh no, humans are completely unneeded. No, humans are needed to throw money at the VTubers. It was thanks to Izaki that I was able to get into the reception after the ATF was over. They told me there was a dress code, so I went all the way back to my parents' house to get a suit to change into. At first, all that effort paid off, as Izaki introduced me to some of the country's top researchers. Riken, JAXA, IMSS... Okay, what are all these? Institute of Materials Structure Science, a lab at the High Energy Accelerator Research Organization KEK, located at Tsukuba, Ibaraki, primarily works using electron accelerators to investigate the structure and properties of matter. Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, the National Aerospace Agency of Japan, independent administrative agency formed in October 2003 by uniting the Institute of Space and Aeronautical Science, the National Aerospace Laboratory, and the National Space Development Agency. Primarily does space and aeronautical research, its headquarters is located at the Aerospace Center in Chofu, Tokyo. Has other space centers and observatories located all through the country, such as Usuda in Nagano, Tsukuda in Ibaraki, and Sagamihara in Kanagawa. It also has Japan's only 2 rocket launch pads located in Uchinora and Tanegashima in Kagoshima. As of March 2010, it employs around 1,500 people. The Institute of Physical and Chemical Research, founded in 1917, is Japan's only general natural sciences institute. Research at Riken covers a variety of fields like physics, engineering, chemistry, computational science, biology, and medicine. Space is located in Wako City, Saitama. There are also labs in Hyogo, Kanagawa, and other locations in Japan. Riken also has research centers in America, England, and other countries. Oh, we got a text! Okay. Oh, it's just like the one thing, so interesting. So this is now a new thread with Daru. He says, I can't believe you get to go to a fancy party. Die in a fire, Mr. Fancy Pants. We could respond with, you could have helped too, you know. All the food here looks so good. There's nobody to talk to and I'm bored. So, do we want to be the like, we told you you could have done something, or do we just want to be a dick? I don't like the third option. Food? Okay. Sorry, ma'am, I went with the first option. Bring me back a doggy bag. Hell no, I can't do that. You can do what you set your mind to. There's no limit but the vast blue sky. I can come get it right now if you want me to. Are you that hungry? Fine, okay, I'll get you something. But I refuse. Nani? What is this conversation? Are we using his pouting daughter to... conversation? What is going on? You're not wrong. But before long, Izaki ran off to suck up to some university professor, and I was left completely abandoned. My own personal target, Dr. Leskinen, was surrounded by a bunch of famous scientists. Didn't feel like a mere student would be welcome. So all I did was stand around and eat from the buffet by the wall. To be honest, I couldn't tell if the food was any good or not. This feels like an entirely different game than the first one. Yes, it is quite different. I won't get into much more than that, but it definitely has a different vibe to it, I think. And it's a bit shorter than the original, so you'll get to see that sooner, I hope. Whenever my glass got empty, a smiling waiter was always around to fill it up again, and so I found myself drinking more than I intended. My stomach was already so full it hurt. The whole place felt like it was another world. The exact moment I spoke, I heard a girl next to me say the exact same thing. Surprised, I looked over at her. Our eyes met. What was a middle school girl doing here? We've been over this. And then a moment later, I realized it was Maho Hyajo. She was wearing the exact same outfit she'd been wearing during the lecture, because she's a mad scientist! A lab coat in a place like this? That's just what the old me would have done. Maho was clearly out of place. Why? Because she was still wearing her lab coat. I couldn't help but ask. She was sure she had, but she hadn't. And that's why she was standing in the corner, trying not to attract attention.
岡部倫太郎です。東京電機大学の学生で、伊崎ゼミで勉強してます。
I handed her one of the business cards that I'd thrown together after Izaki told me I needed them. She grabbed one of her own out of a stack and carelessly put it in my hands. That was a huge help.
え、ああ、誰も読めないとか言ってたっけ?
I looked at the card and saw that the pronunciation of her name was written in unusually large letters. That was probably because of how people kept screwing it up.
沖縄出身なのか?
曽祖父と曽祖母がね、移民なのよ。私はアメリカ生まれのアメリカ育ち。
ハーフにはあんまり見えないな。クォーター?
外れ。祖父、祖母、父、母、すべて日本人よ。DNA は生粋のジャパニーズ。
DNA. Deoxyribonucleic acid, commonly called genes, is structured like a double helix and consists of 4 bases. Adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. If you've never seen the movie Gattaca, it's a fun movie based around this. Well, maybe fun is not the right word. It is not a fun movie, I should clarify that. But it's all about genes and DNA and stuff like that. All of which are paired off with one another. The nature of these base pairings determines the genetic information of a creature. The number of bases varies by species. In the case of humans, that number is 3.1 billion. Yeah, gotta be ready for that chem test tomorrow. And then the conversation stopped. I'm a terrible conversationalist, honestly. The old me would have gone full Chnubio and started ranting about conspiracies and magic powers, whether the other person cared or not. Can't really call it a conversation. Literally, 8th grader's disease. This term refers to slightly unusual actions and speech patterns commonly used by Japanese boys undergoing puberty. It can also be used as a pejorative term towards people who left puberty a long time ago, but still say highly embarrassing things as if they were kids. Schnubio refers to someone who performs antisocial, misanthropic, or delusional actions, or makes statements in an attempt to make themselves seem like a grown-up. The speaker may think that they're really cool. From the perspective of an adult, they look ridiculous. Schnubio can be broken down further into categories, one of which is the evil eye. He seems convinced that he has a special anime power or backstory. For example, an evil eye that gives him magical powers. Strictly speaking, Okrin falls into this category. I had no idea what to say to somebody I'd never met before. I've been working at becoming a real adult, even buying and studying men's magazines, but none of it really helped. Without anything to talk about, looked over to Dr. Luskinen. He seemed to be giving a lecture on neurons to a bunch of scientists.
すまなかったな。
何が？
いや、セミナーの途中で邪魔を。
ああ、あれね。気にすることないわ。あなたが声を上げなかったら、多分私が同じことをしていたから。許せないの、ああいう人。
いいのか、そんなこと言って。教授が言ってたじゃないか。科学者たるもの、常に冷静にって。
今のは科学者としての発言じゃないわ。だから構わないのよ。
Must have really ticked her off because she grabbed a cocktail from a passing waiter and gulped it down. Her cheeks turned a pretty shade of pink for an instant, but no longer. She might have had a high alcohol
だ
tolerance.
けど、やっぱり良くないわね。反省する。ああいう批判は言い方こそ悪いけれど、それでも事実には違いないんだもの。私たちの研究がまだ無謀の域から出ていないと言われれば、確かにその通りよ。
そうなのか。
取り組まなくてはいけない課題が山積みだわ。さっきセミナーで話した以上にね。例えば記憶データを元の脳に書き戻すことができても、それを脳が利用できなければ何の意味もないの。記憶があっても思い出せない状態、つまり記憶喪失の脳と同じになってしまう。
As Maho spoke, I remembered all the lectures and theories that Chris had given me while she was making the time leap machine.
確か人間が記憶にアクセスしようとするときは前頭葉から側頭葉へ信号が行くんだったよな。
Frontal lobe, part of the cerebrum located at the front of the brain. It controls thought, will, action, movement, creativity, and more. Frontal lobe can further be divided by location into the prefrontal cortex, motor cortex, and premotor cortex.
ええ、トップダウン記憶計測信号ね。
Hope you're ready for more science. Top-down memory search signals. Nerve signals in the cerebrum that are sent from the frontal lobe to the temporal lobe during memory retrieval.
だったら
Then I started to talk, remembering what Chris had told me about her theories as I went. Yes, Samuses? We were supposed to have a test. Samuses, the fact that you remembered means you've passed. When I used specialized terminology whose meanings I barely remembered, Maho would tell me what they were. Thank you, we don't have to spend all time looking at them up.
で、最後に側頭葉に記憶を書き戻す過程で、一緒にコピーした疑似パルスを前頭葉の方に送り込めば、記憶検索信号はちゃんと働くと思う。
あなた、それを自分で導き出したの？
You're technically correct. Were you looking for a more specific, like a shade of blue?
ああ、いや。
Maho looked back to the business card I'd given her.
脳科学専攻じゃないわね。ということは誰かに？それとも論文で？うん、それはないわ。 まだ論文にはまとめられてなかったはず。
何かおかしいこと言ったか俺。
そうじゃなくて、私の後輩がね、全く同じ理論を提唱していたことがあるのよ。どのスタッフもずっと懐疑的だったけど、彼女だけは絶対に証明できるって言い張っていたわ。結局実証試験に進む前に彼女はいなくなっちゃったんだけど。
それは。
Should I tell her? Should I tell her about me and Kurisu? In this world line, there's almost no connection between me and Kurisu. Fair enough, Mim, fair enough.
どうしたの？
Mim's favorite color is blue, but Mim IRL, not the online persona's favorite color, is green. That's my understanding of it. Green is one of the... Samus's, there's 3 primary colors. How is green one of the 3 colors you know? I hope the 3 colors you know are blue, yellow, and green, because otherwise I don't know how you'd get to green. If I wanted to follow my dreams, I needed to act. Unless you're using an RGB. Okay, you're using RGB. There we go. Not a fan of the CYMK standard? Primary colors are red, yellow, blue. Green is a secondary color made by mixing blue and yellow. Do we need to have a test on color theory? Do we need to have a pop quiz on color theory? CYMK... It's not a... Yes, there's additive and subtractive color mixing. CYMK is not a standard most people would use because it's mainly only used for print media. It's cyan, yellow, magenta, black. Explain why RYB and RGB are different. To have to go into Mim's additive and subtractive. Because with RYB, you're doing additive. You're adding RY and B together to make secondary, and then primary plus secondary to make tertiary colors, and so on. Whereas, like, with RGB, you have kind of a mix. There we go. Mim with how light behaves.
実はこの理論クリスからレクチャーされた。
え？今なんて？
マキセ・クリスが教えてくれたんだよ。
クリスがあなたに？いつ？どうして？
彼女がこっちに留学してた時だ。友達になってこういう話をよくした。
Of course, that was a lie. Chris and I became friends in the Alpha World line, not this one. A small lie like this was probably okay.
そうだったの。あのクリスが。ありがとう。感謝するわ。
I think that's correct, Samus's. I think RYB is absorbing stuff onto like a paper or some physical thing, whereas RGB is outputting it as light from something, like a screen or the sun or something else. Her words surprised me. That was the one thing I didn't expect to hear.
彼女と友達になってくれてよ。日本に来て 一人で
Yeah, I think that's correct.
たった一人で勉強していても
Are you happy with our
きっ
pop
と
quiz?
つまらなかったと思うから。
口喧嘩ばっかりだったけどな。
あの子らしいわね。絶対に負けを認めなかったでしょう。
ああ、へりくつばっかりこねていた。
You need me to rewind the game 10 minutes. Okay, summary of what happened in the past 10 minutes. She was talking about issues they were having with their research. Okabe starts repeating the stuff Christina told him, and she's like, "How did you know that?" And he's like, Christina and I were friends. Yeah, that's it. Because he can't be like, so, we invented time travel on this, and we used time travel to go to a different world line where she still existed. So now they're just, like, reminiscing, like, she was the kind of person who always wanted to be right and argued with you all the time.
ロボトミー手術してあんたの前頭葉を書き出してやるぞとかよく言われたし。
Lobotomies. Fun. A method of treating mental illness by performing surgery on the brain. A small hole is opened in the skull and a long knife is used to remove the frontal lobe. In some cases, this was sufficient to cure the illness. The inventor was even given the Nobel Prize for his work. However, due to the serious psychological side effects and damage to the personality caused by the loss of the frontal lobe, lobotomies were banned worldwide in the 1970s. So I actually learned, like, literally this past week, I thought with a lobotomy they went in, I don't know, like drilled a hole or something, or went through your nose. Apparently they go through your eyeball, which is really creepy. I don't know how I feel about that. I thought nose would have been maybe the easiest way to do it, but no, apparently it's through your eye. Glad we don't do this anymore.
まさかそんなこと。クリスなら言いそうね。
だろ？ちゃんと後輩の教育をしておいてほしかった。
その点に関しては認めるわ。陳謝します。
Internet.